Yarrow here, Keller Williams Realty, riffing and rambling on my inspection series. So let's talk about sewage. How's that sound? So the vast majority of the country, homes are not attached to large sewer systems. The vast majority of the country, homes are actually attached to septic systems. Now, a septic system is a contained system on a property to take care of the sewage that's created in the home. And there are entire towns, I think Malibu, the entire town is on a septic system, even the mall. So they're more common than most people think. If you're moving from Los Angeles, you may have never heard of them, but they're actually very, very common throughout the country. And on average, most properties have a septic system. If you're in San Francisco, you probably never heard of a septic system. Again, it's an important infrastructure to be aware of in case you're buying a property or moving out of an area that didn't have them into an area that does have them. So let's talk about septic systems for a second. When someone flushes the toilet or the dishwasher ejects its dirty water, it goes down the tubes into the house, out of the house, and then it goes into what's called a tank. And these tanks for septic systems can be as little as 500 gallons. They could be as big as 2,500 gallons. Normally, these tanks are buried underground. And the dirty water, which we call effluent, goes into these tanks. And then out of the tanks, it goes into these leach lines. And these leach lines are buried in the soil. And the water slowly leaches out of these leach lines and into the dirt. And then some of the solids and the particulate matter settles at the bottom of the tank, and then every couple years people pay to have a company come out and pump their tank out. So the reason why septic systems are so important is because it's one of those important pieces of infrastructure which are not easily visible. You can't just look at your septic system and go, looks okay. You got to hire a specialist. So those specialists are actually divided into two separate subcategories. The first is a pumping company. The pumping company will come out and they'll find what's called the risers or the lid for your septic tank. They'll put this big thing in, pump out all the nasty water, and they'll look in the tank and they'll look for any visible cracks, fractures, anything that might be amiss. Okay? So that's the first step to a septic inspection. The second step to a septic inspection is to hire a wastewater consultant. And what they will do is they will evaluate the leach lines that exit out of that tank. And they will often, for an additional fee, pump water through those leach lines and then visually inspect that those leach lines are doing their job by allowing water to bubble out of them and into the surrounding soil. My septic inspectors, the ones on my short list, are all people who used to work for the county in their septic department. So I find it very, very valuable to hire people in private practice who have decades of experience working for the county because they're the most conversant with the county in terms of what the county is looking for, what the requirements are, if there's an issue, what the workaround or the solution might be. So I think that those are, in my opinion, some of the best people to hire once they've transitioned into private practice. Okay? So one of the things that they can find on a septic inspection is maybe a leach line's not functioning properly, or maybe a tree root has gone through a leach line and is interfering with its ability to function properly, or there are things that are called junction boxes between the septic tank and the leach line, and maybe that needs to have a portion of it replaced. And so I think a septic system is very important because if you don't know what to do with your bad water, that could be a real lifestyle issue, couldn't it? And the other reason is because it's typically pretty expensive to replace or repair septic systems. Now, delving further into a topic you probably never wanted to know about, there are actually two different types of septic systems. There's a conventional system, which is also underground, and then there's an engineered system, which is also called a mound system. Now, a conventional system means that the leach lines that go out of your tank are underground and you don't see them. Now, a mound or engineered system means that those leach lines are above ground and then they put a big mound of soil over the top of that system. And those are actually monitored. Those mounds are monitored to make sure that they're performing correctly. Now, drum roll. I have been to properties where there was actually a conventional underground system and an engineered system, and there was a toggle switch, and the entire system controlled multiple buildings and multiple residences on the same property, and the entire property could be switched between the conventional system and the engineered system just by flicking a switch. So there are systems for properties where they actually are combined to create an infrastructure for the septic system. Now, that gets even more complicated when you understand that some of these septic systems are actually monitored for their performance by the county on a regular basis. So depending upon the septic system, you may actually have, once a month the county comes out and checks your system. And that's something you want to know before you buy a property. Hey, do I have a monitored system? Am I going to have visits from the county on a regular basis to monitor the performance of my system? Now, septic systems on the low end can cost $25,000, $30,000. On the high end in this market, they can $85,000, $90,000. So that's why it's important to understand the condition of the septic system on a property to know, A, if you've got big ticket items coming up in the future, B, whether it functions properly, C, is it monitored by the county, D, is it conventional engineered, and so once we're in escrow, I can bore you with even more details about septic systems, or you can tell me, Yarrow, just do your job. I don't want to know about it. I just want to make sure it's in good condition. Thanks. Hey, Yarrow here at Keller Williams, and I just can't get septic systems off my mind. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about septic systems. Septic systems are rated for the number of bedrooms in a house. So if you have a 3-bedroom house on a piece of rural property and you've got a 3-bedroom septic system, you cannot just go add another bedroom to that house without upgrading the septic system to a 4-bedroom septic system. So that's pretty important information to know. If you have plans of purchasing a home and expanding it, or maybe adding a granny unit back behind the vineyard, you would want to know ahead of time whether the current septic system would accommodate expansion or the addition of bedrooms before you purchase the property. Another reason why that's important is, say you're purchasing land. If you're purchasing land, you would want to know, A, whether they've already gotten a percolation test, B, whether they've already been approved for a septic system design, and C, how many bedrooms does that septic system design allow you to build in the future. So if you're purchasing a piece of land and there's a 6-bedroom approved septic system, that's going to be more valuable to you than if there's a 2-bedroom approved septic system, because that's going to limit what you can do in the future and potential expansion plans for that property. Thanks.